Hey everybody, welcome to the Unscripted Video Game Podcast.
Hey guys.
Yay.
I am the only one wearing a new t-shirt that you cannot get at sharkrobot.com, so...
What's SharkRobot.com?
It's an amazing website with amazing t-shirts, Patrick. God, get caught up. Anyway, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about karma systems.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're talking about how different games incorporates karma systems to kind of influence player choice. And it's kind of just an overall player choice discussion. So, recently, I've been playing a ridiculous amount of Infamous Second Son. Yeah, there's actually new content going up on the channel related to Infamous Second Son soon. It might or might not be up by the time this video airs. We don't know! It's really fun, and it's a sequel, yes.
Yeah, so I guess we could be talking about it pretty soon.
Yeah, we very well could be.
Spoilers.
And or past, depending on what order these videos come out at. And, it's the third Infamous in the series, and Infamous, for those that are unfamiliar with it, it is a game that is pretty much solely based on player choice, and it incorporates a karma system of if you're a good guy, you eventually become a hero, where if you're a bad guy, you eventually become infamous.
But is that choice, or is that the illusion of choice?
The point is, is it still the same plot?
Overall, the plot's the same, but certain aspects of it are different. I guess we can kind of talk about Infamous 1, since that's 5 years old at this point. I'm not gonna spoil anything for Second Son, obviously. I think that's still in the window of spoilers. Plus, Danet's playing it. With Infamous 1, Cole, you eventually get the choice of well, the last choice is what? Use the Ray Sphere or destroy the Ray Sphere?
I guess we could just totally spoil it for everyone.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna just say
the last choice for Infamous 2, which was the really, really big important choice, I feel, was either you use the Ray Sphere a second time, and I think it just use the Rayfield inhibitor.
Yeah, Rayfield,
and it drains out all your powers, which kills you.
It kills
Cole. It's a
Cole.
pulse that kills all the conduits that ever lived.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it kills literally every single conduit, and what I really liked about this choice, we should probably do it the other one first. And then the evil choice is you team up with the Beast.
And you kill every human left.
Yeah, you kill every human, and then you use the Beast's ability to bring out conduit powers in the people that have the conduit gene.
So you're a jerk either way.
Oh yeah. Well,
could you really jerk either way.
Actually, it's kind of strange
wiping out a
because
mass race.
you could argue that you're both a hero and a jerk in both cases.
Yeah, because
in one you're like a martyr messiah. For humanity.
You haven't played Infinite Series, so you don't really understand. The conduit gene was.
I understand when someone is being a jerk.
No, because you don't know the specific details. Because the conduit gene was creating a plague that was killing everybody, and by getting rid of the conduit gene, it cures the plague.
You're still wiping out an entire race.
They're gonna be wiped out one way or another because they're gonna either die of the plague or they're gonna die.
As it turns out, it's killing I think it was 10% or 50% of the population versus killing the other 85% of the population, which conduits would be the minority.
Yeah,
and just generally regular people would be the majority.
I mean, we're not saying that he wasn't a jerk about it either way, but I mean, the good choice is actually good for the betterment of humanity. It shouldn't have
been a karma choice, in my opinion. The red tint for the freaking save the conduits, and the blue tint for the freaking save the humans, I think was totally unnecessary. They should have made that last choice completely gray.
Yeah, that really was kind of a gray choice because
Danet's right. You're being a jerk, but I also believe that you're saving a bunch of people.
You're saving a bunch of people regardless, but I mean, the way the world was kind of turning out, conduits were severely discriminated against, so they were
and still are come Second Son.
Oh yeah, well, I should probably elaborate on that a little bit too, because Second Son, you don't get the option of continuing the world from the evil perspective, it's only the good. So the Second Son picks up where, as if you chose the good ending, kill Cole, wipe out the conduits, and start anew. Because there's a whole plot device as to why the conduits come back and such. And really, I kind of wish I would kind of want to know what the world would be like if they had made one with an evil ending. That would have been really interesting and really crazy, I think.
It's hard to write. That's the problem.
Oh, yeah.
It would kind of be like freaking Fist of the North Star with a tiny amount of people just walking around beating the crap out of each other with magical powers.
Also, it'd be really hard to kind of coordinate with Delsin because his powers literally absorb other powers. And if you put him in a world full of other powers, he's just going to go around and touch everything. Because that's Delsin. He does that.
And then become a freaking god.
Which, yeah, it's kind of weird because I don't really know where they're going to go with the Infamous series after this now. I'm kind of like, you can't really have Delsin in a world full of that. And because it's going to be really hard to, for one, make a character that has such a wide array of powers.
I wish Concrete Lady had the Beast powers. That's a better moveset, I think.
Oh, the fire and
the Beast seems to have what appears to be flaming black holes and the ability to grow like to 5 stories or something.
Oh well, I can't say much about that actually. Her power set's really cool, and you don't really get to see much of it until later in the game. So, but back to actually talk about the choices. Yeah, the storylines are overall they're pretty much the same, but small details of the world are changed, and the population of the games react differently to Cole depending on what you choose. Cole/Delsin. Like people in the second one and the first one really just pelt you with rocks if you're a bad guy. Which what's the first one and the second one that they could actually kill you with it?
In both they could actually kill you with it.
Both.
Literally, if you're taking machine gun fire from like a gang of hooded, tar-faced monsters, and by that that's not a racial term. They're literally just covered in tar.
Yeah, they're the Reapers. Yeah, they do that.
That's what they are, the Reapers. Oh, I was wondering.
Yeah, the guys with the red.
So if you're taking machine gun fire and you're at low health, then a civilian can, seeing his glorious moment, beam you in the head with a rock and kill you.
Yeah, it's pretty funny and also very aggravating if you're playing an evil playthrough.
And it's strange that no matter how many civilians you just totally mow down in the streets, there will always be more to gang up around you and just beat the crap out of you.
Like, it'll be a barren street and then one person's there and then there's a mob.
It's funny because Cole is constantly like wired with electricity. I feel like melee attacks would be a really bad idea.
That's why you use rocks.
What? That's what
rocks from a distance.
Rocks can't conduct electricity.
But like, okay, so with going from Infamous 1 to Infamous 2, you have the option to carry over the data, your choices from the first game into the second one, and you get a karma bonus because of it. So I think Aaron mentioned this in a previous podcast of where in the second one, there's a mission that literally, if you chose to be good in the first game, the lady just gives you a kiss, and that's the entire mission.
Which I enjoyed.
It was
just the concept.
It's the great concept. It's like, wow, my mom would have died for what you did in, what was the name of the city? I forgot already.
What?
The name of the city in the first one.
Empire City.
Empire City, yes. My mom would have died in Empire City if it wasn't for you. And if you were evil in the first one, you like the mission set takes place in an alley, and you walk up to the lady, and he's like, "My mom starved to death in Empire City because of you." And then like the militia surrounds you; they're on the roofs and everything with rocket launchers and stuff, and it's really hard to get out of there and survive. It's like one of the hardest fights in the game if you really weren't prepared for it. It's definitely interesting. I mean, I've played enough of the Infamous series to like see both sides of all the games, with the exception of Festival of Blood, 'cause that was just weird.
I thought Festival of Blood was good.
Oh, that was weird.
We have no karma systems here. Only your thirst for human blood.
It was a weird game, dude. So, I mean, other than Infamous, have you really played any games where it incorporates like karma systems?
Oh, yeah. So Fallout 3 heavily used a karma system. Because the karma system was kind of how the games had always done things. And it's a really interesting thing to do, in that you can always choose what your character does and how they interact with the world. That seems like kind of a basic thing, but karma systems are pretty basic when you think about it. You're deciding whether you're playing a hero or a villain, and you're not shutting out one side or the other. Far Cry 3 did not have a karma system, but decided to throw in a moral choice at the end. I guess I have actually no idea why, and I'm going to tell you about why I have no idea why later on when I eventually rail against karma systems. That's later in the video.
So if you just want to hear the pluses, cut off about halfway through.
Let's see, what else? There's been a bunch of games that have had karma systems.
They're very
Black and White. Black and White 2 is a game, and Black and White 1, but I'm talking about it because that's not a game. It's just a
Pokemon
thing. What? No, actually. Have you ever heard of a person named Peter Molyneux? Oh, he also did Fable. More karma systems. What?
I've played part of Fable.
What'd you think?
I have not played any of it.
It was okay. I mean,
That's Peter Molyneux. Black and White 2 was a game where you play as a god. A straight up god. Like You see a person, fireball. You see a person, lightning. You see a person, heal. But you won't do that because everybody who's anybody plays evil. And in the game, you can change the world around you, and as you're choosing to be good or evil, or neutral, you boring jerk.
Wow.
Well, we're going to get to that later on. About the neutral option, which is never anything. You kind of change the environment that you control as under your god's influence. So trees like die, and people are always sick, and babies are always crying forever.
Oh, gross.
Or what?
Gross. Babies.
Jeez. And if you're good, then everything's kind of shiny and happy. Deer appear from nowhere and hop across.
Deer.
I like deer.
Everyone's laughing and literally skipping down the streets as their preferred form of movement. As opposed to the pain my ribs are oozing out of my intestines walk that people have when you're evil. I guess the water in your town is just full of dysentery if you're evil. Like, dysentery is the manifestation of how bad you are. And considering that they're pooping out their intestines, that would be a pretty good manifestation of evil. There's a huge precedent for karma system games, and I'm not really sure what the first game that had a karma system was. Because here at Unscripted, we're unscripted and don't do research.
Yeah.
So pretty much, the idea is to give players a large amount of choice and make your environment more open-ended on a moral level than even your actual environment could be.
Yeah.
I guess that would be the summary of what we're talking about.
Yeah, pretty much. I really love it when a game
Watch Dogs had a karma system.
It was a terrible karma system. It was pointless.
We're gonna get to that.
It was pointless.
Yay, can we rail against it?
No, wait.
We'll get to that. But
Patrick's any positives in karma systems?
Yeah, I was talking about how it was it was when a game is structured in a way. I saw a lot of this with Second Son, where the choices you make, you can see the logic in both sides, good and evil. Like, you can see why you're doing this, and it makes sense, and then it really makes you think at the same time. It's like, okay, so what kind of person am I for picking this choice? Like, if you're choosing to kill people, then
I think it would work even better if they didn't indicate which one was good and which one is evil.
Yeah, that would be really great.
Be like, here's two choices, go with it, try and guess.
Yeah, that would be actually really interesting to not actually label blue and red. Like, when you're making a choice, it's like, here's a choice. What's your choice?
You will be judged at the end.
Yeah, you'd go through like an entire chapter making these choices that you thought you were like doing good. And you know how it like rates your karma at the end of a chapter? Yeah. It'd be like, suddenly you're a terrible person, and you're like, oh,
your karma is decayed.
But rule of thumb, we should probably like not make it super lying. Like, a guy is like, yeah, you're doing good.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise the player's gonna be like, oh, I guess I was evil the whole time. This is stupid.
No, obviously not. Yeah. You'd have to write it better than that. But
yeah, that would be really interesting. But then at the same time, like, you can kind of tell, like, with Infamous anyways, like, it's like, redeem fetch or corrupt fetch. Which one's the good choice here?
Yeah, that's why I said you gotta write it.
You gotta write it better, yeah. Wow, train of thought just.
Want to pick up from here?
Sure. I'll probably get my thoughts together.
So I kind of dislike the idea of karma systems, and here's why. There's only so many resources in a game, like, for developing a game until its completion, and some of that goes into development, some of that goes into writing, a lot of it goes into marketing, probably too much goes into marketing. Mm-hmm. But I feel that it kind of pulls away from the power and control the literary department has, because as you'll notice, the good karma one is always the one developers go with. They almost never go with the bad choices.
Yeah, I can see why. I mean, yeah, I know why. If there's going
to be a continuation, they always go for the good one, because the evil one is always, rawr, I'm an insane schizophrenic, and I'm just going to go blow up everything. And the writer's like, well, crap, we can't actually go from that.
Yeah, like
and
especially
I feel that if you're gonna have just such dead end, if you're gonna have such a dead end, sorry, Patrick,
it's okay.
Then what's really the point of including that? It's like your story is always going to go on this line with these branches that don't mean anything. I mean, if EA ever catches wind of this, then they could just be like, DLC now. That was actually kind of silly, but what were you saying?
It was silly. I was talking about how like you can kind of see that too, because I'm like games typically want to make it so you can keep going. I kind of wish like karma systems are a weird way to put it in the fact that you kind of continue on with the game. Like Infamous 1 and 2 did a good job of like you can continue either way you go because the game the second one adapts to your choice in the first one. Not much, but it still does. But you really couldn't go from 2 to Second Son because with the way they're writing the third one, it would be just way too hard for 1 to develop and 2 to write, I guess. Like, develop game-wise with mechanics and such. It would just be way too hard to do because the evil choices gave you a plethora of options.
But that literary thing, that resources thing was kind of my secondary thing. The real reason why I have a problem with karma things is because it's a point system. And I really dislike that concept. In that, if you're going to talk about morality, I cannot murder a person and then save a puppy and have a person just be like, okay, you have negated the murder of that person by saving this puppy. Yeah, the person's going to be like, wow, you're a murderer and also kind to animals. Maybe I'll think kindly of you on your murder trial. And the strange thing about that is that in Infamous, you can just go on a killing spree.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can negate that with other actions. And I feel that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
If you're doing a point system, and you're able to negate, like, literally in the bar, which implies that you are this evil or this good.
Yeah.
The game forgets about the choices you made before, and just looks at whether you're blue or red, and then makes its call.
I feel like the choices need to have more weight to them. Like, you can't just go around... Like, you could literally do this. You can go around and beat up a ton of civilians and then immediately heal them. Like, that... It completely just negates what you just did.
You fixed it.
You fixed your problem and you're set back to zero, basically. You shouldn't be able to do that because...
Now, the civilians clearly saw you turn a corner and aim for their freaking faces with lightning bolts. And then you heal them, so the civilian's not going to be like, thanks, man. The civilian's probably not just going to run.
I would just floor it, yeah.
Just, jeez, what the heck is
cheese
wrong
it
with
right
this
out
guy?
of there. I mean, yeah, it should be weighed a lot differently than just 1 point being good, 1 point being bad. Like, the choices that you make, especially, like in the beginning where you, like... Okay, so I'll go with the first choice for a Second Son. It's like, you either choose to give yourself up as a conduit and be like, okay, yeah, it was me, I'm a conduit, take me in. Or you say, you know what, lady, screw you, I'm not going to talk. Like, either way it goes, like, the same events kind of happen there. Because it has to give you a story, like a reason to go continue in the game. But the choice of like, wow, I just screwed over my own tribe because I'm a stuck-up little brat, it should be weighed a lot heavier than it is in the evil story.
Stuck-up little brat. I noticed another thing about karma systems that
okay.
is a little bit irritating. That is, with this kind of binary system of good and evil, you can't be a real villain. Games always are like, you're selfish, or you're just a psychotic murderer. The easiest way to be the evilest person possible in Fallout is literally just to run around shooting everyone in the head.
Yeah,
except kids. Kids are bulletproof.
Kids are
they
bulletproof.
lose their armor at teenagers. Your character doesn't come across as any kind of character. He just comes across as like a Hotline Miami style silent massacre artist. God. Did I ever play Hotline Miami?
No, but I've watched people play.
You should play some Hotline Miami.
Gruesome. It's gruesome.
But you can't be like a really evil person. You can't commit some incredibly heinous acts. And you can't do, and personally the best evil person you can do, you can't do acts for the sake of making yourself look good and then go into future acts of evil behind the scenes.
Oh, you can't do like subtle acts of evil where like people aren't going to know about it. Like, what do you mean? Actually,
you can't go into a town, save everyone from the bandits that are oppressing them, because that's just how it's going to work, and then follow up by subtly making their town evil and under your control like a cult.
Okay, so kind of like manipulating them from behind the scenes, like a puppet master, basically.
Also, in the inverse, you can't play a Knight Templar and walk into a town and just shoot all these infected civilians in the head to quarantine the rest for the sake of saving them. The game is rating you on your actions, not actually rating you on your intentions. The game is rating you for a single moment, but it's not actually taking a grander scope into things.
I feel like it'd be really hard to program a game that expects your intentions.
That'd be almost impossible.
Yeah, it would.
Which is why I think you should throw the whole karma system out entirely, and then just base it on the choices themselves.
I'm trying to think like how I keep going back to Infamous because that's what I know best.
Mass Effect 2 did this, and it had a bar for Paragon, had a bar for Renegade, and to be honest, Renegade isn't evil. Renegade is direct, and Paragon's freaking Jesus. Like, you have good, and you have get it done. You have Captain Picard from Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then you have Jack Bauer, I think, just torturing people and just getting through situations.
Just do whatever it takes.
Yeah, do whatever it takes.
No holds barred.
But you have these two bars, and the game could have done this, and they could have had different situations happen at different tiers for both bars. So you could possibly fulfill one tier in one bar, and then go for 3 tiers in the other bar. And the game has still acknowledged that you have completed up to 1 tier of Renegade and 3 tiers of Paragon. They didn't. That's hard to program. I understand that. But it also goes to the fact that there's no neutral options in games. There's no point in being neutral in Infamous. There's no point in being neutral in Fallout.
It penalizes you for being neutral
because the way point systems work, you come across as a schizophrenic madman, which I believe is even more dangerous than an evil person, at least to those around him directly.
It's unexpected. It's completely unexpected.
A person would walk up to you and they wouldn't be like, I have no idea who you are. Why should I care? Which is what Infamous or what Fallout would do. And they should be like keeping their distance as much as possible because they have no idea what you're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
You could shoot them in the head, then shoot their wife in the chest, then heal their wife, then leave you to die.
When you put it that way, yeah.
And look, their karma's about neutral. Which is terrifying when you think about it.
Yeah, it's because you're not good, you're not evil,
Desmond comes across as just like evil, he's just like there's this cackling supervillain just shooting everybody in the face. Good, he's just desperately trying to save everybody from this horrible things that happen. And neutral is just this frothing maniac, just shooting at everybody in sight, but healing some of them, but leaving some of them to die, and then just graffitiing a wall and blowing up a car and running off.
Yeah,
brother, what are we gonna do?
It's hard to do neutral in that kind of situation because going by like some of the choices, you can't just opt out of doing a situation, like doing a thing, because...
And how do you write a neutral character?
Brother,
what are we gonna do?
I don't know. Like, literally, neutral would be just accepting the fact that, like, whatever just what happened did happen, and just not doing anything. Okay, I guess I got to go kill the entire human race now. It's not my choice, it's the coin.
Shoot guy in head. Nope, you're dead.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about player choice before we ended it up. Like,
yeah, okay.
How much choice is too much choice in the game, do you think?
How much choice is too much choice? I think if you start creating your own plot holes, you've gone to too much choice area. The reason why I think choice should be, not choice, but the idea of multiple endings, which I was really excited about once, and I really like the idea of players having a say in the story. But I feel that the writers are the ones who are best able to write a story for you, and their ending to things would probably be the most satisfying conclusion that we can go for.
Usually.
Usually.
Definitely put a usually there.
Okay, you know what? You're right, usually. The last few Assassin's Creed games have ended just being like... Okay.
I like Black Flag's ending. It was actually pretty satisfying.
No, Black Flag's ending, from what I've actually read, it's very morally gray. And
there
is no karma system in Black Flag.
Nope.
And yet the writer manages to make a very morally kind of scattershot but confusing situation. And I think that if we're going to trust anybody with the story of our games, it should be the writers of the games. I know that player choice is super important. Everybody's always clamoring for player choice. But I don't know. I'd rather have a writer do it rather than have the ending of Mass Effect 3, where they're like, "We're tired. We don't know how to freaking make your systems go to the conclusion fluidly. Here is a hors d'oeuvre." Well, I've just said that wrong. Here's an appetizer plate of endings.
Hors d'oeuvre.
You choose which ending you want.
Here are your hors d'oeuvres.
And the DLC added, you don't choose any ending. And you flick us off. So we flick you off right back and just make the worst ending possible. I think that's... I'm not saying it's lazy. I'm just saying it's not as satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, when you get down to it, the writers definitely know how to do it best, I think. I mean, there are obviously some people out in the gaming communities that are brilliant writers that should be hired. I mean, that's...
I'd say split your teams into good and evil. Maybe a neutral one, but let's face it. Neutral, on a point system based level, neutral is impossible to write for.
Definitely.
You either come across as completely blank and mysteriously just doing things to do things. I have to kill a man because I just saved a puppy. Because I can't be good or evil. Sorry, I don't know why puppy is the line. I should probably go for more humans. I saved a baby.
No, because it's worse to kill a puppy. It's worse.
Oh, jeez.
Shows how sick and twisted you really are.
Basically, you should probably have equal direction set for good and evil. And maybe... I do like how they did Infamous 2, though, by the way. You know why we're doing the good ending for Infamous 2.
You know why it's happening, yeah.
They actually did a vote. They checked every single game data of every single ending that everybody did for the first run they did through the game, and it was 68% to 42%.
Huh?
No, not 40, 32%.
They voted. They basically voted.
Could have done the evil ending.
So that's how they got Second Son. They did a. Huh. I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
I appreciate the heck out of that.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end it on, actually.
I appreciate people actually listening to fans.
Well, yeah.
That's incredibly important. You're right.
I mean, you totally can't poll it after 2 playthroughs because people do one good, one evil because achievements reasons. So it's definitely good to do your first instinct, which actually is kind of bad because I always do the evil one first.
I like the choices. I like the choices in Walking Dead from Telltale Games.
Yeah, it's not so much a karma system, but it's a moral choice.
It is simply choices. You must see your actions, decide whether your actions are just and justifiable, which at the end of the day, any evil action is only... when you think about good villains aren't cackling villains. They've just managed to justify the crap out of their actions.
Oh, yeah.
If you take a person like Geoffrey, he doesn't think he's evil. He's just justifying his actions because he's just having a ton of fun. If you take any Knight Templar characters, who you could argue are either evil or good.
We're almost out of time.
I know. I've been watching it. You could say that they're justifying evil actions for the greater good of society. I think the karma systems are a bit limiting. I think they're too binary.
Yeah, totally.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there for this podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Have a good one.